time. Let's get it rocking and rolling. Appreciate everybody who's here with me. And on these first looks, we start with the main event each and every time. I will make this pick official later on in the week when I have more information, when I've done a little bit more due diligence. But let's start off, as we always do, with this main event, breaking down both of these fighters, what they do well, what they do poorly, what they need to capitalize on, and what we think of this matchup first look. So let's talk about it. First of all, I think this is an elite lightweight matchup. You've got on the one side, Rafael Atman Fiziev. He's an absolute sensation. I thought he won his last fight against Justin Gaethje, but it's very nip-tuck, right? It was a super close fight. I do not fault anybody for giving that fight to Justin Gaethje. I think, the second and third rounds there certainly could have went his way. He definitely took over as the fight went on. He did some damage. He busted up the eye. So there's no faulting a Justin Gaethje scorecard there. However, Rafael Fiziev did great work in that fight. And if, another set of judges are looking at that, then we cash our ticket. I actually had a bet on him that night. Square play by me. Shout out to the Justin Gaethje bettors. It was far too close a fight for him to have justified the price tag I bet, which was a significant chalk price. However, I still thought he won the fight at the end of the day. And that's what his job is, to go out there and win the fight. It's a difficult fight against the BMF, against this guy who's got a lot of, acclaim, former world champion. So, hey, no knock on his name. He went out there, he put it on the line against another top 5, top 10 guy in the lightweight division. Wasn't able to get the nod, but he does seem like a guy who's poised to take that step up in competition. We remember, when this guy, Rafael Fiziev, absolutely shut down the game of RDA and he put a clinic on him. I cashed bigly on him there. I cashed on him inside the distance as well. So he's a guy that was making an ascent in this division. The win over Brad Riddell, another fantastic win. The way he was able to do it with that spinning head kick, it just shows the class that he has as a striker. You're really impressed when you watch a guy like Rafael Fiziev strike. He could do a lot of things well. I think that the things that you would knock him for, his cardio is a little bit inconsistent. We could see third rounds that he's lost against the likes of Bobby Green in the UFC and say to yourself, maybe he does slow down a little bit if you start to push, if you start to extend the fight, if you continue to extend the striking combinations beyond that first layer, or if you can mix in wrestling, grappling attempts. I think the problem for RDA is, number one, I think it compromises him at this point in his life and career to cut down to 155 pounds. So I don't think he could maintain that same 5-round wrestling pace that he used to be able to, and that he's able to at 170 pounds, in fact. When I think about this fight, I think to myself, Rafael Fiziev, is he going to be able to keep up with the cardio and the pace of Gamrot? Because that's what Gamrot really brings to the table. On the other side of things, Mateusz Gamrot is not the striker, in my view, that Rafael Fiziev is. Not even close. Fiziev, a little bit faster, a little bit more dynamic, probably a little bit better durability, though that's a close call. I think that Gamrot's got very good durability. He's been rocked a number of times, but he's got very good recoverability. So I think that both of these guys, hard to put away, very difficult lightweights to get, the better of. You look at Mateusz Gamrot, he's went out there against a very quality strength of competition, and not a lot of guys are putting him in that danger of being finished. And when they do, he does a great job of recovering. It's pretty impressive stuff. So I think of a guy like Mateusz Gamrot as one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division, which is saying something. There's a lot of very talented grapplers within that division. But I also think of him as a guy that, maybe thrives in those 5-round environments more than a 3-round environment. Because you look at Gamrot over 3 rounds, and sometimes he's not able to distinguish himself clearly from his opponents in that amount of time, but he does put up a high work rate. He'll go for 1 million takedowns, kind of Merab Dvalishvili-like in that way, because these aren't guys that are going to go down there and sit you down, take you down like Khabib Nurmagomedov, hold you down, press you, pass the guard. A lot of what they're going to do is take you down, force you to get back up, and then take you down again and take you down again. A Ricky Simone game plan. These kind of guys that maybe it's not all about wrestling to get top control and tiring yourself out. It's about making that other person work harder than you're working. And I think that for Gamrot, he does a pretty good job of that. He's very good at forcing guys to work. And most of the time they tire out way faster than he does. I was retweeting earlier today. I was gutted by the fact that I had Gamrot sub 2 plus 3,000, 30 to 1 when he was fighting against Carlos Diego Ferreira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, very good on the ground. But I thought Gamrot was going to pace him. And guys, he ended up hitting him with a knee to the body, then locks in the rear naked choke. And the guy points to the referee and says, "My ribs." And while he's in the rear naked choke, they stop the fight due to a TKO. So that's what this game will do to you, right? It'll burn you. Even if you put your money in good position, sometimes it's not going to come through. But that's why our goal every week is to make more good bets and to pass on fewer, to have fewer bad bets every time out. That's our goal. So for me, I'm looking at a fight like this and I say to myself, last time out, I laid the chalk with Fiziev. I thought he won. Now I'm getting a discounted price on that, but it's not the same opponent, right? Justin Gaethje was out there getting a takedown against Fiziev, and he hardly ever attempts takedowns in his UFC fights. So that is a little bit alarming for me when I think about the fact that, what happens if Gamrot is still fresh in round 3 and he starts taking down this guy, Fiziev? Fiziev definitely has a chance to win this fight by knockout in the early going. He's extremely dangerous. He's got well-rounded skills. He's got the knees. He's got the kicks. He's got the punches. He does a great job working in combination. He's the better striker, no doubt about it. But if he's forced to defend 12, 15 takedowns in the first 3 rounds, are we confident we're going to be getting the same guy in the back half of the fight? That to me is an open question here. And I do think of Mateusz Gamrot as a very well-trained individual. He's coming out of American Top Team. This isn't a guy that's effing around about his career. He's very invested. He puts in a lot of time, a lot of wrestling rounds. You look at his training regimen according to Instagram and these other things. He looks like he's putting in incredible work with high-level opponents, with high-level competitors in and out of the training room. And he also is just a guy that's a grinder. He looks like he's in excellent, supreme physical condition. Let me give you guys something that I've been looking at since the beginning of the week, though, that's mildly concerning to me. Mateusz Gamrot looks to have some kind of infection in his chest. If you guys are watching the video, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm kind of pointing to that mid-sternum area. And it's not totally uncommon if you guys have ever wrestled, grappled, these kind of things. Where do you pool sweat on your body? One place, especially if you're laying down, playing guard, things like that. One place you pool sweat is kind of in between your pectoral muscles, the chest, that sternum type of area. And so it can lead to skin infections at times if you either don't clean right after practice or just incidentally, because you're spending so much time in these positions, you could eventually just get a skin infection by happenstance. And I do have a mild concern that we may have a skin infection on Mateusz Gamrot's chest. I've been trying to monitor that situation over the course of the week. I found a couple of old, pictures that he posted on Instagram where he doesn't have it. So it's not like it's just like he always has this kind of chest acne type situation. And guys, I'm somebody that watches a lot of fights, right? And I try and look for abnormalities. I try and look for anything that looks a little bit strange. And I did just think to myself, does he have staph potentially on his chest? And we've seen guys in the past compete with staph. We've seen guys go out there and compete while they're on antibiotics. And if you guys have never been on antibiotics while trying to do any kind of athletic endeavor, it really saps your energy, guys. It saps your physicality. You don't feel as good. You don't want to be there. And so I do think that, that's something to monitor here. I think that if that is the case, I think if he has a staph infection, the line will probably start to reflect that a little bit over the course of the week. So I'm going to be watching the market here as well. But you've got an underdog price on Mateusz Gamrot, and I do think he fights like a dog. I think he fights hard for your money. I think he's performed pretty well as an underdog in the UFC. So those are some things that I don't want to ignore here. Fiziev's the younger guy. He's dangerous. He's got the more knockout power, the more knockout potential. And I think early in this fight, he's more, he's probably going to be taking over the fight in the early going, just with his speed, his ability to get off on strikes. He's very difficult to take down as well. One of the things I noted about a Contender Series fighter, Talita Alenkar, is that she was very good with her jiu-jitsu, but her balance was surprisingly poor for a fighter of her jiu-jitsu quality. And the opposite is true of a guy like Rafael Fiziev. He might not be the world's best wrestler and grappler per se. He's not bad at either of those things, but that's clearly not his primary game plan. He's looking to go out there and strike. But you look at the guy's balance fundamentally in a quad pod on one foot with one foot up in the air. The guy's just very difficult to take down, typically speaking, when he's fresh. So I feel like shout out to Emanite in the chat. Shout out to everybody who's here rocking with us. Hey, Liam, what fight are you capping right now? Right now, we're talking about the main event of the evening, my brother. We just got started. We're rolling, talking about this main event matchup, and it's a fantastic one. And I'm basically saying I don't have the strongest lean on this fight coming in. What I would say is it feels to me like from a betting standpoint, I would probably want to be on an underdog or pass in an elite lightweight matchup where I think both guys are potential top 5, top 10 talents. But I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the tape here, see if stylistically there's one thing that pushes me over the edge on either one of these fighters. But again, just Mateusz Gamrot, when he was fighting Arman Tsarukyan, I think he was a plus 250 underdog in that spot. I think Arman Tsarukyan probably deserved the nod, but again, that's another top guy. That's another elite fighter. It was a main event circumstance, and people were kind of counting him out, thinking, hey, this is obviously a Tsarukyan easy money win. And it ended up being a really close fight, very, very greasy. And while Tsarukyan probably deserved the nod, it was close enough. It was within the bounds. And they gave it to Mateusz Gamrot, and he's got another main event opportunity here. He's a guy that's put in a lot of the right time, a lot of the right work and effort. And you got a guy in Fiziev who they basically set up for a really big win in his last fight, and he wasn't able to deliver. He wasn't able to seal the deal, in a big step up in competition. And so now he's not taking a step back in competition, in my view. He's kind of taking a lateral step. He's fighting another top guy, another very difficult challenge. He's got to do it bouncing back off of a loss, whereas Mateusz Gamrot is actually putting some momentum together, in this division, despite having some setbacks in the past. So for me, really interesting fight here. Very compelling style matchup. If you were saying, it's pick 'em price, I'd probably take Rafael Fiziev, just at that kind of, gut level lean, which one of these guys is a little bit more dangerous, which guy could potentially impose their skill set when they're fresh. I feel like Fiziev is probably going to check that box, but again, this just feels like a very competitive fight. It's not a bullish read by me. So I think I probably lean towards an underdog or pass situation here. Also, I think this fight's going to decision more often than not. I mentioned that I think Fiziev could finish potentially with his knockout power, but I don't see many finishes in this fight outside of a Fiziev KO or a Gamrot submission. I don't see Gamrot knocking out Fiziev. Fiziev has been knocked out before, but Gamrot's just not really that guy typically. He tends to be more of a submission threat on the mat. Very good operator, very savvy. And again, that cardio conditioning could push him to a late finish potentially. But I struggle to see Gamrot TKOing a guy like Fiziev. He's very tough. He's very hard to put away. We saw the damage he was willing to incur in that last fight with Justin Gaethje. So for me, my lean here is to the over. I probably feel better about the over than I do about either side, to tell you the truth. But for me, super tricky fight. Leaning towards a dog or pass situation. Gut says this fight's going the distance. It's going to hit the cards.